Welcome back to Reddit Whispers. So my wife ended up cheating on me even after years. So this really shocked me, but my wife, whom we say soulmate, can't now really ended up with a dude. I didn't knew that I even paid bills of that lad, as she always took money from my credit cards and spent on him. So I was just curious about the bills I am getting, which were too odd for me because they were there from nowhere, as I knew why she would need such amount of money on a daily basis. They used to hung out. She even once sneaked out saying she's going to stay with her friend as she has arrived in our city for some work. When I asked her that she can stay here, she lied to me saying she doesn't want to interrupt in our family. What a lying pose she is, man. I just can't hold back and want to leave. I can't see someone whom I loved, cared, nurtured for years getting out of hands. Please suggest me something that I can do. Can't even divorce her due to this alimony thing. I need to pay my parents' bills. What should I do? I can't think of anything, so just posting this. The silence in our house has become a living entity, a third presence that sits between us at the dinner table, that lies in the cavernous space in our bed, a constant, humming reminder of the chasm that has opened up between us. It's funny, isn't it, how you can share a life with someone, build a world together brick by brick, and then one day you wake up and realize you're living with a stranger. Not just a stranger, but a stranger who has actively dismantled the world you so carefully constructed, all while smiling to your face. The woman I married, the woman I thought I knew better than I knew myself, has become a ghost in our own home, her laughter a hollow echo of what it once was. Her touch, which used to be my solace, now feels like a brand, a reminder of her betrayal. I find myself replaying our life together, every memory, every shared glance, every whispered secret, and I see it all through a new, tainted lens. Was any of it real? Did she ever truly love me, or was I just a convenience, a stepping stone to whatever it was she was really looking for? The questions haunt me. They keep me up at night, staring at the ceiling, the same ceiling we once stared at together, dreaming of our future. Now all I see are the cracks, the imperfections, the slow decay of what I once considered a masterpiece. The betrayal is a physical ache, a constant pressure in my chest that makes it hard to breathe. It's a bitter taste in my mouth that no amount of coffee or whiskey can wash away. It's the way my heart plummets every time her phone buzzes, the way my stomach clenches when she says she's going out with friends. Friends. The word itself has become a mockery, a symbol of the web of lies she has spun around us. I look at her, really look at her, and I see a stranger. A beautiful, captivating stranger who has shattered my world into a million pieces. And the most painful part, I still love her. Or at least, I love the woman I thought she was. The woman who held my hand through my father's illness. The woman who celebrated my successes as if they were her own. The woman who made me believe in a love that could conquer all. But that woman is gone, and in her place is this hollow shell, this actress who has been playing a part for God knows how long. And I, the unsuspecting audience, have been giving her a standing ovation all along. The credit card bills were the first tangible clue, the first crack in the carefully constructed facade of our perfect life. It started subtly, a few extra charges here and there, things I initially dismissed as her treating herself, something I'd always encouraged. But then the amounts grew, the frequency increased, and the nature of the purchases became unfamiliar. Restaurants I'd never heard of, stores she'd never mentioned, charges in parts of town she had no reason to be in. I'd ask her about them, a casual, "Hey, what's this charge for?" And she'd have a ready explanation, a breezy, "Oh, just lunch with the girls," or "I bought a gift for my sister." And I, a fool in love, would nod and smile, never questioning, never digging deeper. Because to do so would be to admit that there was something to find, something that could shatter the idyllic life I was so desperate to preserve. But the seed of doubt had been planted, and it began to fester, a slow-growing poison that seeped into every corner of my mind. I started paying closer attention, noticing the little things that had previously gone unnoticed. The way she guarded her phone, The way she would suddenly end a call when I walked into the room, the vague, evasive answers she would give when I asked about her day. Each instance was a small tear in the fabric of our relationship, a tiny unraveling of the threads that had once bound us so tightly together. I became a detective in my own home, a silent observer of the woman I had promised to love and cherish. It was a torturous existence, living in a constant state of suspicion, my mind a relentless whirlwind of what-ifs and could-it-be's. I wanted to confront her, to scream and rage and demand the truth, but I was a coward. I was terrified of what I might find, of the confirmation of my deepest fears. So I said nothing, and the silence between us grew heavier, more suffocating, a tangible manifestation of the unspoken truths that were slowly tearing us apart. Her friend's visit was the turning point, the moment when my carefully constructed denial came crashing down around me. She had been so excited, so animated, telling me about this old friend who was coming to town for a few days for work. A friend I had never met, never even heard her mention before. But I, in my desperate attempt to cling to the remnants of our once happy marriage, chose to believe her. I even suggested that her friend stay with us, that it would be a great opportunity to finally meet her. The way she immediately shot down the idea should have been a red flag, her panicked excuse about not wanting to impose, not wanting to disrupt our family life. But I was blind, willfully so, to the glaring inconsistencies, the gaping holes in her story. The night she left to stay with her friend, our house felt emptier than it ever had before. I wandered through the silent rooms, her absence a palpable ache in my chest. I tried to distract myself, to watch a movie, to read a book, but my mind was a relentless storm of anxiety and suspicion. I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong, that this was more than just a friendly reunion. And then, as if a cruel twist of fate, I saw it. Her laptop left open on the kitchen counter, a forgotten detail in her haste to leave. I had never invaded her privacy before, had always respected the sanctity of her personal space. But in that moment, I was no longer the trusting husband. I was a man on the brink, a man desperate for answers, no matter how painful they might be. And so, with trembling hands, I opened it. The screen lit up, illuminating a world I had never known existed. A world of secret emails, of clandestine messages, of a life she had been living parallel to ours. And there, in black and white, was the truth. The friend was not a she but a he. The work trip was a lie. The hotel reservations, the romantic dinners, the intimate conversations, it was all there, a digital testament to her betrayal. The pain was immediate, a white-hot agony that seared through me, leaving me breathless. It was a physical sensation, as if my heart had been ripped from my chest and trampled on the floor. The woman I loved, the woman I had built my life with, was a stranger. And in that moment, in the cold, sterile glow of the laptop screen, I knew that our marriage was over. I had become a ghost in my own life, a silent observer of the wreckage that had once been my home. The days bled into one another, a monotonous cycle of waking up to the same crushing reality, of going through the motions of a life that no longer felt like my own. I would go to work, a hollow shell of the man I once was, my mind a constant loop of her lies, her deceit, her betrayal. I would sit in meetings, staring blankly at spreadsheets and presentations, the words a meaningless jumble of corporate jargon. All I could see was her face, her smiling, lying face. All I could hear was her voice, her sweet, deceitful voice, whispering promises she had no intention of keeping. I would come home to a house that was no longer a sanctuary but a prison of memories, of shattered dreams, of a future that had been stolen from me. Every object, every piece of furniture was a painful reminder of what we had lost. The armchair where we used to curl up and watch movies, the dining table where we used to share our meals and our dreams, the bed where we used to make love and whisper secrets in the dark. It was all tainted, all stained by her betrayal. I would wander through the empty rooms, the silence a deafening roar in my ears. I would pick up her things, a book she had been reading, a scarf she had left on the chair, and the scent of her perfume would hit me like a physical blow. It was the scent of a stranger, of a woman I no longer knew. The nights were the worst. The darkness would amplify my pain, my loneliness, my despair. I would lie awake for hours, staring at the ceiling, my mind a relentless torment of unanswered questions. How could she do this to me? To us? After all these years, after everything we had been through, how could she just throw it all away? Was it all a lie? Was our entire relationship, our entire life together, a carefully constructed charade? I wanted to hate her, I wanted to scream and rage and make her feel even a fraction of the pain she had inflicted on me. But I couldn't. All I felt was a profound, soul-crushing sadness. A sadness for the man I used to be, for the life I used to have, for the love I thought would last a lifetime. I was trapped in a limbo of my own making, unable to move forward, unable to go back. I was a prisoner of my own pain and I didn't know how to escape. And then there was the alimony. The word itself was like a slap in the face, a cruel irony in an already unbearable situation. Not only had she shattered my heart, my trust, my entire world, but now I was expected to pay for it. To financially support the woman who had betrayed me, who had lied to me, who had made a mockery of our vows. The injustice of it all was a bitter pill to swallow. It was a constant reminder of my powerlessness, of the way the system seemed to be stacked against me. I had worked so hard, had sacrificed so much to build a life for us, to provide for her, to give her everything she had ever wanted. And now, all of that hard work, all of that sacrifice was being used as a weapon against me. It was a cruel and unusual punishment, a financial shackle that would keep me tied to her long after our marriage was over. And on top of it all, there were my parents. My aging, ailing parents who depended on me for their financial well-being. They had worked their whole lives, had sacrificed so much for me, and now it was my turn to take care of them. How could I tell them that the money I had been saving for their future, for their medical bills, for their comfort and security, would now be going to the woman who had destroyed our family? The thought of it filled me with a shame so profound, so suffocating that it was hard to breathe. I felt like a failure, like I had let everyone down. My wife, my parents, myself. I was trapped in an impossible situation, a financial and emotional quagmire with no easy way out. To divorce her would mean financial ruin, would mean sacrificing my parents' well-being. But to stay with her would mean living a lie, would mean sharing a life with a woman I no longer knew, a woman I could no longer trust. It would mean waking up every day to the same crushing reality, the same soul-destroying pain. I was at a crossroads with no clear path forward. I was lost and I was alone. And for the first time in my life, I had no idea what to do. The walls of our home, once a symbol of our shared life and love, had become a constant, oppressive reminder of my failure. Every photograph on the mantelpiece, every piece of furniture we had chosen together, every knick-knack that held a memory, was now a source of torment. The laughter that once filled these rooms had been replaced by a deafening silence, a silence that amplified the turmoil in my mind. I found myself avoiding the places that held the most poignant memories, the living room where we'd spent countless nights curled up on the sofa, the kitchen where we danced while cooking, the bedroom that had once been our sanctuary. I was a prisoner in my own home, haunted by the ghosts of a life that no longer existed. My work, which had once been a source of pride and accomplishment, became a mere distraction, a way to numb the pain for a few hours each day. I would throw myself into my projects, working late into the night, anything to avoid going back to the empty, silent house. My colleagues noticed the change in me, the dark circles under my eyes, the way I had withdrawn into myself. They would ask if I was okay, and I would force a smile and say I was fine, that I was just tired. But I was far from fine. I was drowning in a sea of despair, and I didn't know how to ask for help. I had always been the strong one, the one who took care of everyone else. To admit that I was struggling, that I was not okay, felt like another failure. So I kept my pain to myself, a heavy secret that was slowly crushing me from the inside out. I started to neglect myself, to let go of the things that had once brought me joy. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped seeing my friends. I stopped caring about what I ate or how I looked. I was a shadow of my former self, a man going through the motions of life without any real sense of purpose or direction. The future, which had once been a bright and shining beacon of hope, was now a dark and terrifying abyss. I couldn't see a way out of the mess I was in, a way to rebuild my life from the ashes of my shattered marriage. I was stuck, and I was scared. I would spend hours online, scrolling through forums and articles about infidelity, about divorce, about alimony. I was looking for answers, for guidance, for some semblance of hope. But all I found were more stories of heartbreak and betrayal, of lives torn apart by lies and deceit. It was a bleak and unforgiving landscape, and it only served to deepen my despair. I felt like I was losing my mind, like the pain was consuming me, leaving nothing but an empty shell. I knew I couldn't go on like this, that something had to change. But I was so paralyzed by fear and indecision that I didn't know where to start. I was at the mercy of my own broken heart, and I was terrified that it would never heal. The thought of confronting her, of finally saying the words that had been churning in my gut for weeks, was both terrifying and liberating. For so long, I had been living in a state of suspended animation, a silent observer of my own life's unraveling. To speak the truth, to give voice to the pain and betrayal that had been festering inside me, felt like a necessary step, a way to reclaim some semblance of control over my own narrative. But the fear of what would happen next, of the finality of it all, was paralyzing. What would she say? Would she deny it? Would she cry? Would she be angry? I had no idea, and the uncertainty was almost as unbearable as the betrayal itself. I replayed the conversation in my head 1,000 times, each time with a different outcome. In some versions, I was calm and rational, laying out the facts with a cold, detached precision. In others, I was a raging inferno of anger and hurt, screaming and shouting and demanding to know why. But in every version, there was a sense of dread, a knot in my stomach that wouldn't go away. Because no matter how the conversation went, I knew that it would be the end of us. The end of our marriage, the end of our life together, the end of the future we had so carefully planned. And that was a reality I wasn't sure I was ready to face. But I knew I couldn't keep living in this limbo, this state of unspoken truths and simmering resentment. I had to do something. I had to take a stand, for my own sanity, for my own self-respect. So I made a plan. I would wait for her to come home from work and I would confront her. I would lay out all the evidence, the credit card bills, the emails, the hotel reservations. I would demand an explanation and I would not back down until I got one. As the hours ticked by, my anxiety grew, a gnawing, twisting feeling in the pit of my stomach. I paced the house like a caged animal, my mind a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, hurt, sadness, fear, they were all there, swirling and churning and threatening to consume me. And then I heard her key in the door. My heart started to pound, my palms started to sweat. This was it, the moment of truth. She walked in, smiling, and asked me about my day. And in that moment, something inside me snapped. The dam of my carefully constructed composure broke, and all the pain and anger and hurt came rushing out. I didn't scream, I didn't shout. I just looked at her, my eyes filled with a sadness so profound that it seemed to suck all the air out of the room. And I said, "We need to talk." The words hung in the air between us, heavy and ominous. The smile on her face faltered, replaced by a look of confusion, of apprehension. And I knew in that moment that she knew. She knew that her world of lies was about to come crashing down. The conversation that followed was a blur of tears and accusations, of denials and half-truths. She tried to lie at first, to spin a web of deceit so tangled that I would get lost in it. but I was no longer the naive, trusting husband. I had the facts, and I laid them out one by one, a cold, irrefutable indictment of her betrayal. And as the weight of the evidence mounted, her denials grew weaker, her lies more transparent. And finally she broke. The truth came out in a torrent of sobs and confessions, a messy, ugly, heartbreaking story of a woman who had lost her way. She told me about the other man, about the thrill of the forbidden, about the way he made her feel alive in a way she hadn't felt in years. She told me she was sorry, that she had never meant to hurt me, that she still loved me. But her words were hollow, meaningless. They were just another set of lies in a long line of lies. And I knew, with a certainty that was both devastating and liberating, that I could never trust her again. Our marriage was over and there was no going back. I told her to leave, to pack her things and get out of my house, out of my life. And as I watched her walk out the door, a strange sense of calm washed over me. The storm had finally passed and I was left in the wreckage, surrounded by the debris of my shattered life. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a flicker of hope. A hope that I could rebuild, that I could find a way to move on, that I could one day be happy again. The road ahead would be long and difficult, but I knew that I was strong enough to walk it. I had survived the worst, and I would survive this. I would not let her betrayal define me. I would not let her destroy me. I would rise from the ashes, and I would build a new life for myself. A life based on truth, on honesty, on self-respect. A life that I deserved. If you've made it this far, I'd love to hear from you. What moment in your life made you see someone for who they truly were? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Reddit Whispers, where the real stories get told.